So I'm taking care of my friend's cat, and they didn't give me the keys to access their apartment, or enough keys.
Whoa.
So I had to get in contact with their landlord.
But like through them, like they did it, or
Yeah,
like
they did it, but I had
Okay.
I had to like meet him and stuff, and he's
I was just fully in belief that you. I don't know how really apartments work that much, but like if you call the landlord and like, yeah, they said give me the key, and he'd be like, all right, yeah, whatever you said.
that's what I did the
There's
first time.
definitely probably some that
See, that's what I
would
mean.
just let that run.
Yeah. They when I went there, so get this. This is something I didn't even think about, but he runs a framing store where they frame artwork.
Oh, cool.
Which makes sense cuz he's doing something bougie and landlords are bougie. Shade to the landlords. But
Landlord support podcast.
we are an anti-landlord podcast. We are an anti-housing podcast.
I read somewhere else that like someone was they worked at a framing store and they said it was like the best retail experience for them because only nice people really go do that for some reason. Like it's either old people who don't know what they're doing or people who are just like I don't just do what you need to do. Here's the money. And then they just leave and you gotta do your work. Like it seems very hands off.
It seems very niche, honestly. Seems like something I didn't think about until right now.
I have shit I want to frame, but I've never framed it, and it's expensive, isn't it?
It's super expensive. Like just getting a nice frame for something is usually at least $60.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Like I remember my parents wanted to frame like some posters or whatever, and they were like looking at options to do so, and they like it objectively costs more than the posters themselves like every time. So
oh no.
So they're just kind of like, yeah, we're not gonna do that.
You can get those like cheapo ones that's like plastic and like cardboard backing, and they're like $8, and you're getting exactly what you pay for. Like it just doesn't work.
We have plenty around the house that are just kind of falling apart. So
I guess what you could do is super glue like at least two sides of them together, and that way when you want to take it apart, it'd be easier to take apart. This is boring.
I have a prop related to this. Let me grab it.
Oh boy. Never mind. It's all back, everybody. Props,
right.
props,
Hold
props.
on.
Is that L from Death Note? Are you every middle school girl that we know? We knew everybody we don't know any now.
This is
Do you wanna talk about how many middle school girls you know?
Not even my cousins. I don't know any of them anymore.
Let's not talk about
I
that.
remember when we were in middle school though, everyone loved Death Note, and I was like, this is fine, and I tried reading it, and it's so verbose and just kind of dry at times.
Yeah, I mean, I actually prefer the reading to the watching. The watching is very memeified, but it's good.
Now it is. I'll take a potato chip and I'll eat it. Crunch.
Yeah, so my mom told me to frame this fucking copy of a print of a drawing.
Why did she do that?
I don't know. It's a drawing of L being upside down.
Your mom loves you and she just wants you to be happy.
She's like, oh, you like this weeb shit? Here, go get a frame from Joanne Crafts.
Joanne's is pretty rad.
Who is Joanne and who is Michael, and why are they dominating the scene?
How could they do that? This week, a deep dive into art supply stores.
Studio art. But the worst part of it.
Episode 4, the tragedies.
I do fuck with Joanne, and
how is she doing?
They have good sales. They would have
every time I go to Michael's
90% off, buy a canvas, and it's like 10 cents. And it was like, okay, like, and we'd leave and we'd have like 7, and then we'd go back in like a year and we'd buy 7 more. It was awesome. Go ahead, Andres. I'm sorry.
Every time I go into Michael's, it's always like, I go in wanting to get something specific, and then I go to see if they have it, and they don't. So I just get something like what I need.
Oh no, that's pretty common. I don't know. One time I had to go into Joann's to find a very specific paintbrush, like a very specific paintbrush, and they didn't have it.
A right angle paintbrush or something?
Yeah. No, it was a certain density of paintbrush, like a certain thickness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Brick density.
They tend to have more.
I think I'm fine.
Like fabric related things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's really good for that.
One of my family members would always try to, when I was younger, gift me like a blanket that they would make out of fabric from Joann's.
They would try to?
Well, I mean, they wanted to. They would like explicitly tell me that that's what they're doing for like Christmas, and never happened. Which I am very happy about. I'm okay with that. I don't need a lot of blankets.
That would be so sweet.
I got a couple. My mom made me a blanket from Joann fabric, and it's pretty nice.
Yeah. I'd be real happy if someone made me a blanket. That'd be really cute.
You need it right now.
It's the only blanket I have.
Oh. Bond just lives in the cold. No, that's not true. LA's hot.
It's starting to get cold finally up here. Like, it was 50 this morning, and I've been leaving all my windows open, and I'm ready for the snow. I'm ready to be in shorts again for the entire season.
Why do you wear shorts? Is it because you're actually warm, or?
Well, it's because
he's ready to run a mile every moment in time. He's ready to go run that 8-minute mile.
I can do it if I want to. That's the point. Yeah, no. The reason I wear shorts is because I'm oftentimes walking and sweating a lot as a fat man, and this fat man identity.
Sad.
It's a sad identity, but when you tie it to the physiology of the fat man, it means that you have to compensate somehow. And normally, you don't get that reprieve. You're just like hot and tired when you arrive. But when you're cold, it helps regulate the body temperature a little bit when you're trying to overheat by needing to walk or run. So, this also tells you how frequently I'm late to class. So.
I don't know why that got me so good.
Yeah, but that's the reason. It literally helps with my body heat. But it also makes me look like an idiot.
Just wear like open back shirts.
Damn.
That's the move, in my opinion.
That's a good move.
I do remember a high school teacher we shared saying that the strat for being in Seattle in rainy conditions is shorts and wool socks. So
oh my god.
I guess
there was like when it was like hurricane season, I was in Hawaii. There was points where I would wear pants and like shoes and everything, but then I get to where I'm going and I was just soaked. I was like soaked, and I was like my socks were wet. So the next time I just went total like running shorts and flip-flops, or we call them slippers, and I got there. I just got like paper towels. We were at the cafeteria, dried myself off, and I was like, wow, this is much easier. This is way better. And then I just got inside where I wasn't going to leave, and then I got warm. I felt so smart.
The real play is the Speedo. Just wear a Speedo everywhere.
Speedo it up. Open back shirt and Speedos.
Open back shirt, yeah. Business in the front, party in the back.
What was those?
Open back shirt so you can go into places that say no shirt, no shoes, no service. You say, I have I have a shirt and shoes, good sir.
I'm gonna look up open back shirt now. If it's a thing, we need to see it.
For men? I don't know if it's for men.
There has to be some, but maybe not made in the US.
Go to jjmalibu.com, which is
I found some.
Very, very strange website we would visit on occasion. There was this guy in Hawaii, and he was very buff, and he would wear booty shorts, and on the booty shorts it said JJ Malibu, and it was a booty short website, and it was just like very erotic male clothing. And he would wear them all the time. They were like $40 shorts. And I was like, good for you, man. I was jealous. I couldn't fill those out like
search results are high fashion.
Yeah.
High fashion.
That's all I found. A lot of high fashion. I mean, you sort of see the reverse, which is like a V-neck, which sort of makes sense, I guess.
Open front shirt.
I didn't search
A
that.
button-up?
No, well,
A button-up you didn't close?
Wow.
Just wear a button-up backwards. Oh.
We found it.
There
That's
you
it.
go.
It's
Make
not.
sure the collar's popped up too. It can act as your mask.
Oh.
I gotta say, I really have never understood those like button-up shirts, but they don't have the collar. It's just like it's like sans collar. They just took it off, basically. You know what I'm talking about?
So it's like this,
Yeah.
but it's like both of the colors we have.
It
but it's
still
a button.
raises a little bit.
They're very like
Just the fold over part of the collar is missing.
Oh, that's weird.
I don't like them.
they're like, I think it's kind of like the kung fu shirt.
Yeah,
right?
but it's
like,
it's not like those, because those are like a design through the ages. It's just kind of like, it's like the white copy of it's the Panda Express version of that shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why I don't like it. Like this, just like, maybe so. On second thought, damn, I look pretty fucking good right now.
Yeah, exactly. You look fly. You look like you're ready to be in a JRPG or something.
I think it was also the fact that one of my coworkers would wear them, and I did not like that coworker. I associate things. Speaking of association, do you guys ever associate music with a time period of your life? It's a pass.
Yes.
It's a pass.
You know, I think this segue is good because I imagine this could get
We should dissect every segue and just give it a rating.
Well,
out of 5 stars, Manny. You're not involved in the segue technically. What is
Yeah.
your rating of this segue?
I think you passed it pretty well, so it's like a easy 3 out of 5 for the pass. The reception's pretty good too. Say it's another 1.5, so 4.5 out of 5.
Ooh, sucks to suck on it. What's the scale out of? Is it 7 stars?
Oh, 5. So you're pretty good.
Okay. Sucks, dude. We're fucked.
But I was gonna say I think our opening banter is great because I imagine this. If we had dark opening banter, yeah.
Your
Well,
teacher's pet. I asked for the segue, not the shitty opening banter we just had.
well, I think the mundanity will help with the content we're about to experience. So it'll help us. I didn't mean it like that. I meant like it'll help
This
me
is a
cope
weird
better.
day.
It'll help me cope and manage my emotions.
I'm happy for that. I'm glad.
Okay.
So yeah. This week I recommended the album Just Got Back from This Discomfort, We're All Right by the Brave Little Abacus.
Have you ever held an abacus?
No.
It's weird. It's like music. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Anyway.
Better than the toaster.
It is obviously a play on the Brave Little Toaster. Apparently they were all they all really liked that movie, so it is a play, not they.
No
There's
fooling.
so many band names where I see them and it's like, oh, we weren't thinking about this at all. One example is there's a band right now called For Your Health, and apparently they get hit all the time with like the Steve Brule show, like For Your Health, and they have like said several times like, no, we just saw a candle that said For Your Health on it and we went with that. So it's like there's always happenings like that in music. So I love the Brave Little Abacus in general. The assignment was to listen to this one album, and I listened to their whole discography like twice this week.
Does not surprise me.
Yep, nope, this is par for the course.
So I prefaced this episode, I think in the last episode also, but before we recorded, that you guys are definitely going to need to like reel me in, because the Brave Little Abacus is probably one of my favorite bands ever.
So pause. Manny, what do you think we were going to be doing this week? Like, I just think I'm just going to let him talk. I don't really...
Please don't.
No,
I don't know. I don't know when it gets too bad.
I want to get enough background to understand, because the way I've been handling our episodes is that I let the person hosting do a lot of the, I think we're all doing this. We let the person hosting give backstory, give context to the thing we experienced beyond the things we know. So I'm going to let you talk for a while. And then if we're like an hour in and you haven't asked us anything, then I'll be like, yo, ask us something.
I think that
I'm going to try.
That makes sense.
I will try.
I think Andres knows when he's going to be a little bit too much is my... I think he's going to put too much of a barrier on himself.
Yeah, I mean, for the record, unpause. I don't know if who is editing this will actually cut that out or not. But for the record,
no, that's meant to be there.
I have 13 or 14 pages of notes on the Brave Little Abacus.
Okay, never mind. I can't
Jesus.
And I tried to condense them in written form, and I only have like 4 pages on the band itself, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the album. So I tried to condense it and ended up with 10 pages. So.
Okay, we lost 3. That's fine. That's rough cut.
Progress. Progress.
So
give it to an
I will try my.
We should have contacted a third party.
I will try my best to not sound like an insane person and only give the details that you need. But before I do that, I will ask for your guys' first impressions and what you guys thought of it.
Hit me, Alexi. Go for it.
Oh, cool. This was fun. This is another fun album of like, just there was a lot of moments of anime badass opening moments in my head, if that makes sense, of just like, it was high energy, and my head always defaults to like, how do I make this into a movie in my head? And this one was a lot of like running and like just like big dramatic wide open spaces and fun. I really liked I'm bad with the names of the song. The first song really blew me away.
Pile, no pile, pile. It honestly,
but it's different on the Spotify, isn't it?
No.
I don't think so.
When I went to go find it again, I Spotify Googled Pile, No Pile, Pile, and then it was third in the list of the songs in the album, which was very confusing, but that's fine. I think that just might have been some weird thing. Anyway, that's regardless not important. But I listened to it twice all the way through, and then picked out a few songs, and it's a lot of energy for a man trapped inside of his house right now. So there's a point where that was kind of a deterrent where I wanted to just dance and like lose it for a bit, but I was like, okay, well I'm in the kitchen and my mom's home and so is my dad, so I can't really do it. I can't really do that without getting embarrassed. I liked it. A hard stance.
Did you want to say something, Andres?
Oh, for the record, if you don't remember these song names, that is
some of them
perfectly acceptable.
One of them, I was like, oh, I like this song. What's this one called? And it was like, they paved a highway over the way I drive to, and I was like looking at the Spotify scroll, and I was like, dude, hurry up. It felt like a Fall Out Boy song because they have like long ass fucking names too. And I was like, Jesus Christ, can we move on?
That's funny.
There's
Random
also
side tangent. I have a random side tangent. I feel like a lot of new albums now that try to be cool, they lowercase all the names to their songs. Am I the one that's noticed that so far? It's just kind of
they
like,
absolutely do that.
move on. Like, it's okay. Like, just it's fine.
It's an aesthetic.
Yeah, they're trying to be cool.
Yeah, you look at the track list every now and then. That's it. Move on. Side tangent over. Manny, how'd you like the album?
Yeah, Manny.
Okay. So I don't know.
I wish you were
Sorry.
just like, okay, I didn't, and then he just stops.
Okay, it sucked. No. I listened. So I listened through it twice. Well, yeah. I guess twice. My initial impression before I listened was I thought it was going to be in a very similar vein to, just based on how you described it, to Scrambles, but with like an added element of more of sort of an indie aesthetic, less punk, more indie. What I ended up getting was something that I've been this is not the right term, but I've been calling it punk fusion and like indie fusion for a lot of it. Just because there is like a lot of like beautiful writing, like instrumental writing, just like up front. There's like a lot of what feel like written out, sort of like well composed riffs and sort of ethereal ambient sections in quite a few tracks, whether they're like electronic or otherwise. And all of this, like my first listen, which I do 2 listens for the albums that we review and talk about. I do one listen where I'm just listening for the instrumental, and the second listen I do where I'm listening specifically for lyrics. And I think this album, just instrumentally by itself, is really, really, really good. But the lyrics really put you in like a special place. Like they're impactful without thinking about what's being said. But as soon as you start thinking about what's being said, it's a completely different ball game. Yeah,
It's a very special place indeed.
Yeah.
I think a good thing that you said, Manny, was it is kind of like Scrambles in the fact that there's all these instruments coming together, but this one did feel more orchestrated, I guess is a good way of saying it. Like, while Scrambles does feel like this like raw improv energy, this has a more like this was a bit more planned, and this is how it's going to affect you, and it works. Both of them work in their own ways, but I think Andres said it right. It was like that's a lead into this album, and it's a good one now because like I'm having more of an ear for this stuff than I used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I think Scrambles really. I think like listening to Scrambles. Listening to Scrambles got me in the headspace of letting genres do their own thing in the moment. And that happens a lot in this album. There are like a lot of like genre. I don't want to call it genre switching, but it sort of feels like where Scrambles is sort of genre switching. Like there's like a punk song followed by like a ska song, like followed by like a metal song. For lack of more descriptive terms, right? This one has sections of certain songs that are like straight up emo style writing, and then there are sections of the song that feel very electronic. There was like even an electronic like chiptune sample that was being used.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's great. It like completely contextualizes it differently. So yeah, I think this would have been a much different listen if we didn't have Scrambles before for me. Not sure how different, but it was great. Sorry.
I would have hated it. It would have been terrible. It would have sucked. Are we going to be doing a lot of sampling of the music this episode?
Probably.
Yeah.
I have a lot to talk about in general for the Brave Little Abacus, as I have said many times.
You get 4 minutes now. Click and the time start.
But what I was just kind of going off my experience with this album. When I first listened to it, or the way I found it was literally just I had listened to Captain Jazz's album and was thinking like, oh, I really like this album. We'll get to that one eventually, but I promise I'll pause on the music recommendations for now, just because there's like too much I've talked about at this point. But I was looking for emo music specifically, and that was basically just my introduction into the genre of emo. And I was on the website Rate Your Music looking at the top rated emo albums or whatever, and I think the first album was before this one, but I looked on Spotify and this album was the only one there, so it was like, okay, people seem to like this on this very pretentious website. I'll give it a listen, see what's happening. And I was like immediately grabbed by Pile No Pile Pile, and then just kind of let the rest of the album play and just had this like blank wash of like, I don't know what the hell's happening going on for like a fair amount of time, honestly. Like to the point where it probably took me like 5 listens to actually realize like how much I liked the song Bug Infested Floorboards. Because like my mind just like turned off like after the first few songs.
It kind of overstimulates you. I agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree. It goes a lot of places really quickly.
Yeah, so it's
a hyperspeed road trip of an album. That's what it feels like. Where you're just like boom, 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 boom. At the end of the day, you're like, where did I go? Like, where the fuck have I been?
I've probably listened to this album like at minimum, realistic minimum is like 30 times, I want to say. Like, I've listened to this a lot, but like those first few listens were just kind of me with like a glazed over look, not knowing what I was listening to, but just being like, wow, I really like that first song though. So
nice.
Eventually Pile No Pile Pile became the song I would just like yell on my way home from work because it was very, very much I'm blanking on the word. I have it in my notes. I know.
This is why he's the boss.
Is my boss.
He is my boss. I fill out W-2s. He fills out W-2s for me.
It was very cathartic. It was like very cathartic on me driving home. Like, it was a way to get my emotions out and just my frustration with all the traffic I was facing. So, and just yelling the opening line, "You're not listening, I said stop." It's amazing.
It's both how many times do they reference Malcolm in the Middle? Twice, right?
Yes,
there's the part where he talks about the really sad one where he's like, it's a small meaningless relationship and it's gone and you move on with your life. And then I don't remember Malcolm's. God, I fucking just save me. Lifeline.
There's one in No Pile Pile No Pile Pile.
And that's Hal for sure.
There's one. It's kind of missing. It's even sadder in context because he's talking about his dead dad.
It's just so terrible. Oh.
Nice.
there's two in bug infested floorboards. There's Dewey saying, is your brain big enough to...
Oh, I don't think I remember that one. I think
Is your like
fizzled out
brain
for a
big
while.
enough to be hurt or to be like offended or something?
Oh, yeah. Something like that. And
That's a
then
great line.
there's another one in that song later of Cynthia from Malcolm in the Middle talking to Malcolm, asking why he wants to fit in with the high school kids, and he says he's shallow.
Yeah.
He
just wants people to like
him.
And I'm like, man, Malcolm, you always get me, don't you?
And then there's one in the last song, Orange Blue with Stripes, at the very end, that's Malcolm saying it just stops, or eventually it stops.
Yeah.
Which is about, from the first episode, which is him saying the best thing about childhood is that eventually it stops.
I need to watch that show. That show's so fucking good. So
Yeah.
sad.
It really is. The first season is amazing.
Really? I just kind of watched it sporadically, like whenever it was on. So I don't even know like how to contextualize what's what.
I just remember
think
the blonde
first
guy,
season is like
the older
Francis?
brother,
Francis?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember Malcolm.
In real life, horrible things have happened to those people in like in their lives. It's real sad. I think Francis specifically is a kind of a shitty person.
his brother is a shitty person. I don't know if he is.
Something. And then Malcolm. Do you know what happened to Malcolm, Manny? If we
Frankie-
could do a
Frankie
small tangent,
Muniz?
'cause Frankie Muniz? Frankie
I,
Muniz lived his dream to be a stock car racer, and then he got so many concussions from racing, he doesn't even remember the show.
what the fuck?
Yeah, but he'll
Yeah.
still have dinners with like or breakfast or something like that with Bryan Cranston, and he'll tell them about what happened on the show. And Frankie Muniz is like, I may not remember it, but like watching it, I seemed really happy, and it's really nice to like remember. It's like, oh god, this is so sweet. Like it's so terrible. He said.
That's intense.
I'm so sorry. Can we take a break? This coffee is making me shit. You can leave that in, but I have to go. I'm so sorry.
This is a shitty
Don't
boy.
leave it in.
Hi everyone, quick editor's note here. Frankie Muniz did not lose his memory in the way that we're describing, not due to these concussions, etc. You can find out more about this by listening to a podcast of Steve-O's called Steve-O's Wild Ride, episode 85, in which Frankie's a guest. But I figured I'd just save Frankie a little bit of trouble by plugging that and telling you a little bit more about how you can find out more about that. Cool, back to the show.
And we're back in 3, 2.
I don't remember what I was talking about before the break.
We're talking about the Malcolm in the
So-
Middle's inclusions.
Oh, yeah.
And we were kind of done with those. So,
And then someone had to take a big
the album
shit.
I'm getting the idea of.
What?
Is this your favorite Little Abacus album?
Yes.
Okay.
What did you
How
say?
many are
Manny?
there? Nothing. I don't need to say it. I just said, and then someone needed to. I'll say it anyway. Someone needed to take a big shit.
Okay. For Brave Little Abacus, there's the first demo. There's, which I think can be considered an EP. There's a split with one of their friends. Rest in peace, Matt Aspinwall.
Yeah, rest in peace, boy.
Yeah, there's a split with that where there's 5 Brave Little Abacus songs, 5 Matt Aspinwall, and the lead singer Adam Demergen from the Brave Little Abacus is on them. And then there's 2 albums. They're both on Spotify. And then there's one last EP that, is... I can explain that one a little bit because that is kind of a funny story, but... So shall I try to speedrun my notes?
Yeah.
Yeah, do it.
Let's see how we go.
Or did you guys want to attempt to try to interrogate me for more information?
I want to hear
Ooh.
inception of the band. I want to hear this album specifically. And then the rest of the albums, I imagine eventually we're going to listen to them anyway. So just kind of like They made these albums, whatever, and then the new EP, if it's a funny story, that does. Because I remember you saying they did break up, so I want to hear about that. And then I want to hear why is there's a 2020 one.
Yeah, hit us with the.
I'll explain the 2020 stuff right now, though.
Okay.
Part of the story with having this album on Spotify was apparently some random person just uploaded it to Spotify, like nobody associated with the band or whatever. So the lead singer thought it was kind of funny, so he just left it up there.
What?
But then eventually he was able to get it down, and everybody is just like, no, the Brave Little Abacus is gone from Spotify. They're not on streaming anymore. And just randomly during the pandemic, he put on Twitter, if you guys fund this much money for this charity cause, I will upload what I can to Spotify of the Brave Little Abacus discography.
How much did you donate?
I didn't end up donating
Fake
anything
fan, bro. Fake fan.
Because it was literally by the time I even saw that, I think they had reached the goal. So
Nice.
It's actually really funny because it all got finalized and everything was back up on Halloween last year. So it's almost been a year since it's been back on streaming. So yeah, I mean, the reason why it says 2020 is because it's old stuff, but it got uploaded last year. So.
Oh.
And I think there's a way to circumvent that, but I don't really know I only know the podcasting back room of Spotify, not the music back room. So.
And this dude just didn't care. He was just like, take the music, let's move on.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't matter. Who cares?
I'll just go into background. The Brave Little Abacus is the lead singer, guitarist, drummer Adam Demersion, the bassist Andrew Ryan, and the keyboardist Zach Onett. That's them recorded. They had a live drummer, Nick Marone, that doesn't appear on any of the albums, I don't think. And
you think that
couple
one guy,
people.
Doesn't Green Day have like an extra guitarist that only performs live with them? But it's like the same beat every time.
Jason White or something like that?
Yeah, he's just like a homie.
Yeah. He's definitely like a part of the band in the fans' eyes, but
yeah.
But the three of them were the Brave Little Abacus for the history of the band. They are all from New Hampshire and went to the same high school. Adam has known Andrew from elementary school even. Wow. Apparently they got like closer friends in middle school, but a funny story he told on one of the interviews I listened to was that the way they met was through like an extracurricular program for an elementary school where they're supposed to design like an amusement park as little kids, like they're in a group project.
That's so cute.
And like apparently instead of them like, or apparently their final presentation was them two doing a bit where they're just both wearing sunglasses and beards, like fake beards, obviously, and the rest of their group presenting their projects.
That's awesome.
So they obviously kind of kicked it off back then, but I don't think they really started hanging out until later. Andrew is basically the person that got Adam into writing music by introducing him into like local playing spaces. So eventually they formed their own ska band called Eggplant Dance Off. I guess being in a ska band and having 8 people in your band was very cumbersome. So
yes,
there's different stories that he tells about the breakup of Eggplant Dance Off, but from what I can infer, it was mainly that some of the people were older high school kids. So, and this was Eggplant Dance Off was formed when Adam was 14. Andrew and Zach are a year older than Adam, which will come into the lore pretty heavy for this album, and they're both of their albums. But they Eggplant Dance Off was their high school band, middle school band also, but the older kids graduated and were going to college. So, and I think Adam was just tired of having so many people in his band, so he just kind of kicked everybody out except for Andrew, obviously, because they're really good friends, and Zach, the keyboardist, who had joined in the last year of the band. So the remains of Eggplant Dance Off became Brave Little Abacus.
I can't not laugh at Eggplant Dance Off. I'm a simple man. Just say Eggplant Dance Off and I'll laugh.
So yeah, part of that decision was Andrew and Adam being really into the Flaming Lips, and
that makes a lot of sense.
They might be giants. Yes, it makes a lot of sense, especially in their earlier music. I'll play a song right now, but
they might be giants made music for cartoons also.
Well, they had a lot of cartoon spots, yeah.
That's
Malcolm in the Middle, they're the singers of the intro, and they play a lot of the music. They play a lot of the music in the first season also. They like sneak some songs in there.
Mm-hmm.
They also did that one song, Istanbul is once Constantinople. Istanbul is Constantinople.
Yeah.
If you know that song.
I don't. I'm ignorant.
I played that in history class.
Shout out to middle school.
Yeah.
We went to the same middle school. How come I don't remember this?
I don't know, bro.
You're missing out, bro.
Too much drug.
Yeah. Too much of the Eggplant Dance Off.
I don't want to be that guy that's like, yeah, I remember. And just like, nah, no.
That's me, though.
So, yeah. So, yeah, they were influenced by those bands that they didn't need a full typical band with a drummer and everything. So, they decided to just keep it tight, keep it 3 members, and then play to a backing track whenever they decided to play live. Part of what makes the Brave Little Abacus really special in my mind is how drastically different all of their albums sound. So I'll play little snippets of the first song they ever recorded. The first
Little
song on their
Snippets would be a
demo.
good name for an album, in my opinion.
For a band, Little Snippets.
Oh, that's cool.
So this is called The Buffalo. You'll see very much so where the chip tunes come from with this song.
1, 2, 3, 4. Crustacean all along the back right stall. Please encase him in case he goes down. Oh shit, dude.
So that was the Buffalo. For editing note, I stopped at 57 seconds.
That was very radio DJ of you. That was the Buffalo. Now back at you with the weather with Stacy.
Ooh, and her mom.
It's raining.
It's very. The first album is pretty interesting. It's definitely not my favorite, but
yeah, that song,
especially,
I'm not gonna lie, that song was okay. If it was too much for me specifically,
I actually really like that song.
that's fine. I was a bit lost. It was a lot of like peaks and valleys back and forth, like really quick, rapid succession.
I'll just play a little tiny bit of the end. I mean, the issue with the first album is that it has zero mixing to speak of whatsoever. So
nice.
I literally will put it on. I have a playlist with like all the Brave Little Abacus on it, and I'll put it on my car stereo, and I literally have to turn it down like 3 notches because it's just so loud. But here's a tiny bit of the end. I think this album specifically speaks a ton to the Flaming Lips influence because it's very like kind of psychedelic in a way.
Yeah.
But it's definitely speaks to it definitely speaks to the era of 14-year-olds just kind of messing around and trying to sound like their favorite bands. In a way, that's what gives it its charm and what makes it really fun, but there's definitely that. So they're literally 14 when they start the Brave Little Abacus.
That is wild.
Adam was a sophomore in high school.
Nice.
Andrew and Zach were juniors.
Man, I feel so lame next to these people now.
They apparently Adam has been playing music since he was like in elementary school. He started with the piano and the alto sax, which is a pretty wild combination. But in 3rd grade, he picked up the guitar and kind of had that like small dream of being a rock star. It wasn't until he met Andrew that he actually found somebody to be in a band with, though. So, so they play a lot of local shows. They record the split with Matt Aspinwall over the summer of Adam's junior year. So like, I think his junior year, the way I go off it is that Adam is literally as old as my brother. So
that makes sense.
Wow, putting that together and just imagining my brother in a band his sophomore year making this weird ass music is just like really bizarre.
I'm just in the garage, just like watching him, like in a plastic chair with armrests, very confused, too small for the chair, and him just kind of like absorbing it and being like, "Man, I'm gonna go play sports."
The second part, or the split, is honestly my second favorite thing that the Brave Little Abacus has done.
The split?
Yeah, the Matt Aspinwall split. It definitely shows that them honing their musical abilities.
Say it again? The split is the what? Is that like them splitting apart from him, or I'm just a little confused?
In punk influenced music, a lot of the time they'll do what's called the split, which is short for split record. So one half of the record will be one artist, one half of the other is another artist.
Okay.
Usually comes from trying to like deal with vinyl pressing charges where like you can press one band on one side of the record, one band on the other side of the record. It's just kind of endured as tradition from that era of actually pressing stuff on vinyl. So
and
this
bands
didn't
still
really
do that.
need to be yeah.
It's more of a tradition type thing.
Yeah.
Cool. I would say it depends on how well established the band is. Like, you could imagine a couple of bands from Nardcore doing it if vinyl charges are still expensive, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they still do it in the digital era. Like, this album was never put on vinyl. They just kind of wanted to collaborate with their friend. So I think it's also just kind of a way to collaborate with people and also just find a way to promote your friends if you want them exposed to a different crowd or whatever, or just kind of associate with each other. It's pretty common still.
Okay.
So their second project, it's probably considered an EP, is the split they did with their friend Matt Aspinwall. I'll play a little bit of the song El Capitano. This one is also on the demo, but they re-recorded it for the next album, and it sounds a lot better. more video game samples. Jump forward to about 3 minutes in. A lot of the early Brave Little Abacus is very kind of jammy, so I think that's kind of the way Adam describes it, is that they put a lot of effort into the instrumentation, and the vocals and lyrics were always just kind of an afterthought. So I think that's kind of what you were picking up on, Manny, with the like lush instrumentation and very like kind of planned out sounding. I think.
Wait, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
When was the song we just heard written? Do you have any idea?
Andres has the exact date and time.
Well,
this was written because this album was released in 2008, and the songs were also written in 2008, but this was from the previous demo, so I believe it probably would have been like 2007, 2006-ish.
Where does that place all of the members? Are they... I'm trying to get a timeline again of their ages.
This album was... okay.
I'm just trying to see if they were writing this in high school, because that's sort of crazy to me.
Oh yeah, they're absolutely writing this in high school.
That's great writing for high school kids. Be real what you hear. That's some talent.
Yeah, the demo is definitely like kind of scrappy, although you can see that they're very talented then. but there's definitely like a very big element of just kind of playing around. I think the next EP, the Split, is very much them like coming into their own as songwriters. Like it's incredible to think that I think in 2008 my brother would have been 16. So it's incredible for one 16-year-old and two 17-year-olds to put together.
Yeah.
I think something that kind of gets misconstrued because Adam is effectively the face of the band. He arguably put in the most amount into the music volume wise, just because he does do primarily vocals, even though, as we heard on the Buffalo, Zach opens up that song singing. But he's the main vocalist, or Adam is the main vocalist. He does all the acoustic drums. He does a majority of the acoustic drums. I think he said Andrew used to help out on drums also. But all the, as he puts it, Zach Hill impression drumming is Adam. He does the guitar also, and I think he kind of did a lot of the auxiliary instrumentation, especially on Just Got Back. Zach is the bassist. Zach is the keyboardist. Andrew is the bassist. So I think from that, they kind of misconstrue how much influence Zach and Andrew had on the band. But from what it seems like they're a really big part of the instrumentation. I think Adam just kind of did the lyrics all by himself, but the rest was like super collaborative and very together, which is why, as I'll get into when they break up, like there isn't any Brave Little Abacus material post their breakup, because they need all three members to like make it happen.
That makes sense.
So
like, I guess I always, when people say like, oh, this is like the leader of, like, the other people are still there and like still desperately involved. Not desperately involved, that's not a good way. Like still critically involved, in my opinion, right? Like they're there and providing something.
Well, I mean, there's another. I don't know if we were recording when we said this, but someone mentioned Fall Out Boy, and I'm not the best Fall Out Boy historian, but I think out of this group, I'm the Fall Out Boy historian.
I
absolutely
would agree.
And the interesting thing about Fall Out Boy is like everyone very clearly defined their roles at the outset, or maybe not directly at the outset, but pretty early on in the band's life, such that like even though Patrick Stump is doing all of the singing, he's not writing the lyrics. Pete Wentz is, and like that's the clear definition.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so like
they're just like, I'll sing whatever you tell me to sing.
Basically, yeah. And their whole thing has been that Patrick Stump's allowed to sort of just embody the lyrics and be highly musical with them, which lends itself to the way that, you know, he has a shit ton of like vocal melismas going all over the place in every song. And
wow.
But yeah,
I've never heard the term vocal melisma. Can you explain that one?
Yeah, a vocal melisma is sort of, you can think of the popular music form of a vocal melisma as being like the Mariah Carey sweeps or the Ariana Grande sweeps, where they're doing the notey thing.
Like going through the
Yeah, going through the scale, going like or whatever, except not that.
Hitting their like ranges. Is that a good way to explain?
Yeah, it's sort of an embellished vocal line, if you want to think about it that way.
Cool.
Yeah, but yeah. So I think you're right, Alexi. I think like people often forget that other members of the band have varying levels of influence.
I mean, even if he was Pete Wentz was the only writer. I'm sure this part where like Stump is singing it. He's like, maybe it could be better than this, and just like, oh yeah, that's actually good. Like I'm sure there's
they have to have been
collaboration,
somewhere.
which has to exist. It's a one man band. You know?
Well, I think that's something we can get into this later, but I think that's something interesting about the emo scene. And again, Andres already mentioned emo as being, this was off topic or off mic, but the genre of this band being an interesting label. But I think like in emo, or in any form of music where there's like a heavy emphasis on emotional content in the lyrics and not necessarily only in the instrumental parts of the music. I feel like it's easy to want to feel the emotion through the lead singer, which therefore places them as like the front end of the band, so to speak. And then you can sort of forget about the other parts accidentally.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, sort of like MCR, right? Like My Chemical Romance, everyone thinks of Gerard Way, but there are like three other members. I don't know. How many?
Point proven.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. That's something I would love to talk more about in like the emo context, because I find myself doing that a lot because I'm so fixated on lyrical content. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'll get that shortly, or I'll get to that like super shortly, because I think the question of genre really comes up, or the way Adam describes it is like the first two albums he literally asks like, what genre even is this? Like it's kind of hard to like, if you were to try to do it, it's like maybe like psychedelic experimental like jam band rock or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's always that thing of like, does it matter what genre it is? And then like the Salters employee is like, well, yeah, because I need to put your music next to music like yours. So can you give me a hint so that way I can help sell your music?
Basically, yeah.
I mean, like really the only thing you can put on Brave Little Abacus is like, put it in the rock section. Like,
yeah, and that's like good enough, right? That's good enough. Just put it there, alphabetical order.
Put it next to Biggie.
There you go. The Biggie Little Abacus.
Shout out to the record stores for putting Thundercat in electronic for some reason.
Yeah. That's lit.
He's never left, even though he's like never really been electronic. But that speaks to, it's actually kind of really funny because it speaks to how the Brave Little Abacus is now associated with emo, and Thundercat has never really made electronic music. Like maybe there's a little bit of electronic influence on the first album, but it's always just like he's associated with Flying Lotus, so we're gonna put him in the section with Flying Lotus.
Yeah, that's so like, weird.
It's kind of fucked up, but whatever.
Yeah. Thundercat rightfully deserves to be in like the like jazz, funk, hip hop hybrid section, in my opinion, but
yeah. Yeah, I mean at least soul or jazz, like,
right,
somewhere in there.
Right.
But so everything's all peachy keen for the Brave Little Abacus until Adam's senior year of high school. As I mentioned before, Zach and Andrew are a year older than him, so they graduate and go off to college, leaving Adam by his lonesome in high school. I think this really just speaks to how much he really cared about the band, because basically from what he says, everything from that time was, everything he was concerned about was how to make the band work. So with this wrench really thrown in to the plan, he's he kind of started, from what he describes, acting out in school, and apparently almost got prevented from graduating by his music program of the school.
That's weird.
I don't really
By the
know
music
the
program,
story behind
of all
that.
things. Wow.
Shout out to
Like-
my music program and being that way towards me because I hated them on accident. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The sorry is really funny.
So, I mean, basically from what he describes, he's a pretty good student that year. So I imagine because he's trying to get into the same college as Andrew and Zach, so he could be with them and do the band.
That's so sweet.
But it's a very strange time for him, and I think it really reflects in their first album. It's like, it's very much the transition between the very like jammy type of music to just got back to the Discomfort, or from the Discomfort, We're All Right. Maybe this song isn't the best to play. I'll play a different one to describe that point. Although my favorite Brave Little Abacus song is on their first album. It's the first song, I See It Too. That song is amazing. But I think, this actually is perfect because it's referenced in a song in Just Got Back, but I'll play a little bit of the song Map of the Stars.
That's a good one.
So, yeah, the first three songs on this album are like incredible. The main reason I didn't recommend this album specifically, even though I've probably listened to it more recently, but I think the back half of it is it's literally there's a lot of songs that go on for a really long time, and I think it works a couple times, but I think there are definitely times when, I mean, there's a 9-minute song backed by like an 8-minute, no, it's a 10-minute song backed by like an 8-minute song, and at a certain point it's just like, oh man, this is a lot. Like, even though they definitely do go places in the song, but yeah, it's still just kind of like, whew, man,
there's sometimes like
a lot to take in.
I know I'm gonna enjoy this 8-minute song, but I don't know if I have the balls to hit play on it. Does that make sense? Even like, it's not that big of a deal, but there's points where I'm just like,
yeah,
I'm just gonna skip. Like, I don't want to have this experience and then get tired of it. I'll feel bad.
Shout out to everything in my field for being 20 minutes long.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite songs.
Double digits, it's a waste of time. That's what Manny's compounder say.
Yeah.
One of my favorite songs is definitely Marquee Moon by Television, and there's no point in that song where I think like, oh man, this is a really long song. It's just like after the guitar solo, it's like, what? This song's already over? Like, that and I See It Too is 9 minutes, but I love every second of that song. It's amazing. So, but I think what that song really captures is kind of emotional distress more so than in other songs in the Brave Little Abacus catalog. I'm not really sure what Map of the Stars is about, but my theory is that it seems very much so like trying to describe what you're passionate about, and it was very obvious that Adam is passionate about the band, but like people not really understanding why you're about like so passionate about it. A lot of, I think the emo tag specifically has kind of worked against the lyricism in the Brave Little Abacus, because as is with all emo songs, people automatically think like, oh, this is written about a girl and he broke up with a girl. And it's just like, yeah, man, sure. But and I think there's a lot of like possible interpretation to the Brave Little Abacus lyrics to be that way. But I think there's definitely more to it than that. A lot of, like 99% of the time. So Masked Dancers, their first album, is very much, I think, reflective of that era in Adam's life, of just being in this weird place where he doesn't really know what he's gonna do with his life. And it just kind of bleeds into the it just kind of bleeds into just got back from the discomfort, because even more things end up happening to him where he doesn't get into the college that Zach and Andrew go to. So he's pretty upset about that. I'm not sure, because Masked Dancers was recorded in the summer after his senior year. So I think he probably would have known that he didn't get accepted to his college. So I'm sure there's some of that in the album. What happens though is that he doesn't get in and is going to like an offshoot community college of University of New Hampshire.
Like one of those that's like linked to it, and then if you go there, transferring into the university is easier.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So he's planning to do that.
Quick note, I've been to UNH. It's sort of pretty in a very white way.
Listen to UNH radio. Have you heard Map of the Stars on UNH radio?
I have not heard Map of the Stars on UNH
I
radio.
have.
Wow.
Not a loser.
Not.
Nah.
I mean, that's happening in his life. Zach goes to study abroad in Italy, and Andrew ends up dropping out of the college. So it kind of, what he says is like, even if I had gotten in, I wouldn't have been able to be with them because they're just gone. So I think a lot of emotion had built up, and because Adam was so passionate about the band,
that's so sad. That's like these two people are trying to have like their own lives and stuff, while the third is trying to just go and be with them, and they're like, well, we actually have made our own decisions and no longer want to do, like, we want to do this, but we need to do this for ourselves first. And this guy seems to be more like, well, I prioritized us getting together more than anything, and you guys have done the opposite and prioritized yourselves.
Yeah, I mean,
more. It's very sad. It's very realistic, though. It's a real life. I don't know why I'm talking like this is a fucking movie, because it feels like one, honestly. But like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was my concern about my notes, is that I definitely formed them into a story, but like these are definitely real people.
Yeah, these are 100% real people.
So, and it just kind of feels weird talking about it from an outside perspective without really knowing exactly what happened.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what conversations. Yeah, we don't know what conversations they had. And
yeah,
we know what happened historically, I guess, but beyond that.
Yeah, and speaking of conversations, apparently in like New Year's of 2010, Adam tells the band that they should just break up. Apparently, or from what he describes, everybody was still kind of wanted to do the band though, and Andrew was apparently the one having the most difficulty doing it, but he still was like really wanting to record music with them and whatnot. So they stay together in that time where Zach and Andrew just weren't really in Adam's life. Adam had been writing music and doing demos for any musical project he could really think of. He didn't really have a specific use for them. And those demos became just got back from the Discomfort. So
the Discomfort's a good name for a venue.
Because you're sweaty.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's why you shower and shampoo.
So, would you guys prefer to just talk about the album now, or do you want me to just finish the history?
I want to know about the album. I want to talk about the album.
Sure, let's do that, and then we can wrap up with the way that they are now occupying their lives.
Wall Street.
Sure. Just one note before this, just to tie it into the Scrambles episode. Adam was a part of a couple different bands at the same time of being in Brave Little Abacus.
Wow.
One of them was called Interrobang.
Interrobang sounds so familiar.
There's like, it's so hard to find their discography because like it's literally just a symbol. It's a exclamation point overlapped with a question mark. So that's like what an interrobang is.
Oh yes,
like,
yes.
Imagine the point.
The dot is shared, but
the dot is the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's a real thing.
Like,
yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I found out about it last year.
If you look at
damn.
If you look up Interrobang on like Spotify, then it's just kind of like a mess of random bands that are also named Interrobang.
Love it.
See, that's why it sounds so familiar.
Because you Google random things on Spotify.
Yeah, I Google random things.
There's a Switchfoot album named Interrobang for all the Switchfoot fans out there.
Oh yeah.
The Interrobang members make an appearance on, or the two members, I'm not sure how many members there actually were, but the lead singer and the guitarist make an appearance on Just Got Back as guest vocalists. But they play Jeff Rosenstock's Boston Scrambles release show, and Adam meets Jeff Rosenstock there. I think Zach and Andrew were also there because there's a picture that on Adam's Instagram where it's them standing together outside of a venue, and apparently it's from the Scrambles release show. But that Adam's able to meet Jeff Rosenstock and kind of form a relationship through there, and I'll get into it later, but basically that's part of the reason why the Brave Little Abacus got notoriety on the internet post their breakup. But yeah, let's get into Just Got Back to the Discomfort, not comma, dash, we're all right.
Damn, I put a comma in my notes. I messed that up.
They just do not have it like properly anything on Spotify. So yeah, it's what you want. So yeah, what's your guys' take on the album now?
Shit's wild, yo. It's, as I was saying earlier, it's a lot of just energies of just like high intensity, and like there's moments, and there's as a personal preference, there's moments where I can't hear the lyrics over the instrumentals, and that's just something I always have issues with, like as like trying to just absorb the whole thing. And it's fine, and once I go and I like read the lyrics, I can hear it a bit more, and it's never like a bad thing once I can like get over that like second listen. The first time it does, like once I know I can't hear it, I get annoyed at myself and I try to hear it more than I should, like instead of just enjoying the song. But that's something I'm always gonna say. What were you gonna say, Durs?
There's definitely a lot of that due to like just the mass of instruments coming. Yeah. But there's also a small story about recording the album. They lost the root files, which is just the instrument tracks, like
individual tracks of each instrument and like vocals.
Yeah. They lost the root files to 2 songs. Adam does and like accidentally does say what they are in one of the interviews I listened to, and it's highway got paved over my future. I drive it getting to school.
Just say the highway.
And the blah blah blahs. I'll throw it in allegedly there, but it's basically all but confirmed because they forgot. He says it because it's supposed to like kind of be funny and like a fun thing for people to like guess or whatever, but they forget to censor the song name, and it's just kind of like, well, they censor it at first, and then as they like get into talking more specifically about the album, he just like kind of flat out says while they're talking about the blah blah blahs, like, yeah, we almost like completely lost this song, and it's just like okay, like, and I think it's the most obvious on that one because you can literally, I've listened to that song like so many times and I still can't really hear the vocals, and it's just the way that it has complete lack of mixing in some facets, like
yeah.
I think they're able to mix part of it before they lost it.
But sometimes it's a stylistic choice, right? To do that, of like...
Yeah.
It's all kind of the same thing, and like... There's maybe a bit too artistically looking at it. It's like, the lyrics and the instrumentals are equal parts. Like, you're not going to overhear this or get drowned out. Like, you're going to hear it all as one thing and just hope for the best. And if you like it, don't like... Like, so I'm not like... Again, it's something that I just don't really partake in. I think because I like to listen to so many podcasts, I just want to hear every single word people say. So maybe that comes from that.
And I think it has to do a little bit with what I previously said about Adam saying the lyrics were always an afterthought.
Yeah, see?
So I think there was probably a little bit of self-consciousness in recording the vocals. Especially because they are very deeply personal. So enough where he kind of like will skirt around describing what they're actually about. Basically the lyrical content of this album really has to do with, he doesn't really explain how much of it is the band itself kind of losing like contact with each other and growing apart. But it also seems like just in general, his friend group as a whole, he is kind of becoming uncomfortable being around people. Like,
especially like in high school too, right? In high school, like your freshman year, you have like, it's kind of like you have like 20 people you know from middle school and like this big group, and every year it shrinks until like he's done in the what's it called, eggplant parmesan
dance off,
eggplant parmesan,
eggplant dance off. It like shrinks down to just 3 people, and like, oh, these are my core friends, like this is who I have, and instead of it being all this like vast network of like pseudo connections,
until you're hanging out with a certain member of the podcast in their Spanish classroom for lunch every day.
Shout out. Woo. That's the vibe. I don't remember a lick of Spanish.
It's me. I'm the man, the cast member.
You're the Spanish speaking cast member.
You're the
You're
cast member that went to go study in Italy. And
Italia. I did watch the new Sopranos movie with my mom yesterday. We've never seen The Sopranos. We had no fucking idea what was going on. We just kept saying Italians. So
wait, so the Sopranos movie or Godfather?
It's Sopranos, like a spin-off of it all.
Just released a new one.
Oh.
Yeah, it came out like yesterday. My mom was just like, "What do you want to watch this?" We're like, "Yeah, sure." And my mom asked this very interesting question, was like, "Do you think this is how like Italians really are? Like, gang members and stuff?" I'm like, "Do you think that's what white people feel about like Mexicans?" And she looked at me a little pissed off, and then she was like, "Oh, yeah, probably." She's like, "You're not calling me out. You're just being honest and introspective." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty shitty."
Back is kind of written from the perspective of Adam being in that weird point in his life. He's going to community college, living from home. After a very strange last year of high school.
Been there.
So he says that his emotional state, or his theory is that his emotional state probably would have been helped by being able to leave to go to somewhere like college or whatever, but instead he just kind of placed himself in that weird feeling for another few years.
Yeah, I as a person who went to community college, I totally identify with this man saying, like, seeing, like, and not, like, calling you guys out and being mad or anything. I'm just, like, you guys were gone. I was home, and it was, like, oh, like, it definitely, like, my last year of community college was, like, probably one of the worst years of my life. Like, where I was just kind of like, well, I want to leave, but I'm not ready to leave. Like, everyone else left, and they're all ready and happy. And it's just like, oh, all my friends hate that they're gone. Like, this weird, like, duality of, like, I want to leave and go start my life, but I also am like, do I deserve to do that now? Like, aren't I too late? And it's like, all these emotions. So I really do identify with that feeling of staggeredness in life.
Yeah, it's a good way to describe it.
From this like weird situation, he describes feeling really disconnected from his friends. I mean, obviously he's like physically kind of separated from Andrew and Zach, but I think his other friends, a lot of the songs are written about just not being able to connect with them. Like Please Stop Crying, They Stopped Hours Ago, specifically is about just like being dragged into like relationship or arguments with friends that were having like breakdowns, and just like kind of being dragged into it by just being in the place and like not wanting to have anything to do with it. After hearing him describe that, like I always had a very different interpretation of that, but
me too.
But when he describes that situation and then looking at the lyrics, you can kind of see it like 1-to-1. Like the first part is very much just like, God, I hope they don't pull me into this. God, I hope they don't pull me into this. Oh shit, they pulled me into this. Like, and then it just goes into like him staring at a glass of water, not wanting to be in the situation. If you couldn't tell from the amount of syllables in the words he is using in this album, he definitely was a philosophy and English major in his community college.
Nice.
Oh, speaking of that, one of the more interesting parts of the band is that, and it'll explain the future people that they turned into, but Zach went to school for music.
Okay.
So and apparently he had a pretty intense focus on microtonal music when in the Brave Little Abacus.
That's interesting.
Microtonal music is basically, if you think about the frets of a guitar, it's trying to find the sound in between the two frets.
Oh, just put your finger in the middle.
Well, it doesn't work like that.
Nope, I'm right.
You did it.
I thought microtonal music was going to be like, what's that thing? The talk box with the straw in your mouth?
Oh.
It's a talk box.
Talk box, right?
Yeah.
That shit's awesome.
Let me show you a microtonal guitar. This will be a little visual reference, and you'll understand.
Yeah, microtonal guitars are insane.
Take a picture of it, and then we post it when this episode comes out. I think that'd be very...
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
For the audience, a microtonal guitar basically just looks like a guitar fretboard with staples on it, like randomly placed.
Oh my god, it totally does.
It's pretty insane.
This is
a lot of
wild.
Yeah, it's music for you.
A lot of
Get off your high
where
horse.
microtones and like...
Sorry.
Because microtonal music kind of sounds like very, very foreign, and I mean that like in a
racist,
in a way that
yeah,
in a way that like Middle Eastern music kind of is very based on microtones. So you kind of get a vibe off that when something is very based in microtones. In Western music, it's very much like sliding to a note. That's kind of where you tend to get your microtones. And I think that's kind of where the Brave Little Abacus mainly uses it.
Yeah, Western popular music, I would say. But yeah, I guess that's the context we're talking about, so.
Stop doing this. Doing it again.
It's good.
One example is definitely the intro of the song I mentioned earlier, I See It Too. I was trying to figure out how to play that a while ago, and then I just realized that you absolutely need to like just have your one hand on the keys of a keyboard and one hand on the pitch knob, and it's very much just like using the pitch knob as a way to get like those weird in-betweens because there's no like actual solid notes in the synth.
Is that kind of like that theremin? Is that what it's called? Like that weird instrument where you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, a tiny bit. The theremin's a very unique instrument in general, just because
that's what I want to learn.
I think it's very hard for people to get a consistent sound out of it unless you just dedicate a lot of time to it. So yeah, I mean, that kind of Zach being very classically trained, and apparently with that in mind, they like a small story is that Zach in one of his musician clubs or classes or whatever was just kind of music classes, not musician club. And one of his ways of communicating with other musicians, I guess the other people found out he was in a band and they played, or invited Adam to come and play Can't Run Away for them. And apparently it was received with a very like, are you okay?
Nice.
Should we be concerned? And from what Adam jokingly says is like, the people definitely didn't look at Zach the same way again after that.
That's funny. That's funny and sad.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of the influence behind this album specifically was, I mean, the general Brave Little Abacus influences being things all over the board and whatever. I can pull up my list of influences just to list off some names. Fugazi, They Might Be Giants, Flaming Lips, Cursive, Liz Phair, Jeff Rosenstock, specifically Bomb the Music Industry, Zach Hill and Hella. He mentions specifically for this album, he was listening to a lot of R.E.M. and Liz Phair.
Mm-hmm.
And he references wanting Pile No Pile Pile to sound like My Bloody Valentine. which like sort of kind of makes sense, but really doesn't. Like, there's like tiny little parts of that song, but yeah.
I was gonna say I don't really hear it. I can like find it, but it's not present the entire time or anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Adam kind of laughs about while talking about it, where he says that the band really wore the influences on their sleeve. Like, I can see certain glimpses of like Rush and the Flaming Lips in the earlier music, but I think he kind of overstates that a little bit, because at a certain point, like in the last two albums, there's just kind of like so much going on that it's like, what? Like, where did you get this from? Like, so I think the people involved in writing the music are really the only people that see like, oh, this is totally a copy off of this or whatever. And it's like, well, I wouldn't have known that. Like,
yeah, that's true. It's true.
I love you, but you're wrong.
Like notes on every specific song.
Manny, do you have a favorite song?
Yeah. I was gonna ask for your guys' like notable songs, so I can just go.
For me,
off of that.
it's the Pow 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 for sure. Pow No Pow Pow for sure. That one is the standout one because it's the best one in my opinion. The other ones, again, like I gave this maybe 3 listens in like as a whole, but I would always just restart from the beginning so I can hear that intro one. But Manny, I asked you, so you tell me.
Well, thank you. Yeah, my favorite song was A Pair of Songs. It's hard to choose, but I think because the way that the album is put together has a lot of sort of segues into other songs. Transitions. They're called transitions. Thank you. Where I'm in podcast land. So because a lot of songs have sort of like seamless transitions into other songs, I sort of gravitated to a couple of those. In particular, A Highway Got Paved Over My Future. I Drive It Getting to School. Going Into the Blah Blah Blahs is sort of my favorite, I think. That also tells you a little bit about my taste because they open up. I mean, A Highway opens up with like this like fusion rock intro, which is pretty lit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one is chaotic, to say the least.
It reminds me a lot of Thank You Scientist at the end. I don't know if either of you know that band, but
It sounds super familiar, but I don't think... I mean, I've maybe heard of them. I haven't listened to them for sure, though.
they're a mixture of like God. This sounds really obscure. No. This they're a mixture of Coheed and Cambria and a ska band. But the way that their writing manifests is it's very similar to this like jazz fusion rock hybrid thing that was happening. And you get a little bit of that in this like cool, again, very genre amorphous track that is A Highway Got Paved Over My Future, I Drive It Getting to School. But yeah, I think that was my favorite, those two songs. Or the other pair of songs, which is Untitled going into Abade, Morning Love Song. I'm saying that wrong, but yeah.
That's fine.
I don't think even... From what I've understood, like literally nobody knows how to say it.
It's like Abade.
The band looks at each other when they say the name.
They're like, are you saying Abade?
Okay.
Abode?
Yeah.
Abode?
I don't know.
A booty.
There was also, I think, if I had to just briefly describe like my favorite sounds in the album too.
Ooh.
There was like a really, really... I really wasn't expecting Brave Little Abacus to have such like spacious, like electronic-oriented soundscape sounding type things in the album. Like you get a couple of those at the ends of certain tracks as transition points. Yeah. They're gorgeous. I was like really impressed by those when I heard them because, again, I came in with the context of emo. So I was like, okay, I'm expecting like a very specific space, even Scramble's punk ska influenced. And then you get these sounds that sound like they're dissociative music from like Grouper or something. And I'm like, ooh, that's nice.
Yeah. Apparently those sections were all just kind of like improvised at the time. Like he calls them accidents, but obviously they left them in the album, so they weren't accidents. But I think the one in Can't Run Away is literally just a guitar track that's been like Paul stretched like really far.
Love it.
So he describes their DAW Cubase as the fourth member of Brave Little Abacus.
Yeah. I was going to say, for the record, Cubase is as flexible as like an instrument or a person. It's like really special. So that makes sense. Check out Cubase if you want to do weird electronic stuff.
Where this is going back to something else. Where the hell do these names come from? Like the names of the songs? Like specifically, like what the fuck does Pile No Pile Pile mean? Like what does that even...
Well, we're getting into personal crackpot theories here because he doesn't really explain them. I think this one is very much related to the lyrical content, how he just said, or how basically the whole song is kind of about like, I have all these feelings and things going on in my life and they just keep piling on.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the weird, like, I think based on what I can understand of Adam Demersion from interviews is the main reason he names things the way he does is because he thinks it's funny, or it's a combination of him thinking it's funny and him just kind of liking how it sounds and thinking it relates to it. Okay. So I think pile, no pile, pile definitely kind of has to deal with the lyrical content. I mean, he says I can pile these things on top of the other. It just feels bad. It just feels bad too. Yeah. I can something I just wanted to do because it's fun. Just putting Untitled continued next to the original song they had named Untitled. The main reason why this exists is because apparently it's very just similar content to each other. Lyrical content. It's very much just about a dissolving relationship with somebody, like friends and whatnot.
Never fun.
Let me play Untitled from the first album. And I think it's a really funny juxtaposition. Here's the first Untitled. So that's the first Untitled, and then we get into this Untitled. I think it's really funny seeing the juxtaposition of old, or like the start of Brave Little Abacus versus the end, just because like there's just like some kind of youthful innocence that kind of feels like is just completely lost.
Yeah, it's gone for sure.
Like there's just pure angst in Untitled continued, and I mean there's definitely still angst in the original Untitled, but there's like a little bit of
a balance.
Like, it's playful.
There's a bit of naivete in it. Like
it's really playful compared to like what's happening in Untitled Continue, which is like it's just a lot more vulnerable and barren.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what separates this album from the rest of the discography, is that a lot of the Brave Little Abacus's lyrics previous to this album, it was very kind of cryptic and poetic. Like these lyrics are very much still cryptic, but in a different way. Like the other lyrics are definitely about something, but the Just Got Back lyrics feel like they're almost feel like a one-sided conversation, like just or that Adam is like trying to sing to like somebody in his life specifically. Like they feel a lot more specific, whereas there's like an extra layer of something obscuring what the actual lyrics are about in previous works. So let's see. In case for the blah blah blahs, just to note, the part where with the guy screaming, it's these ideas that waste all my time. That's definitely not Adam Demersion. It's the lead singer to Interrobang. And the other appearance is on my favorite song, Bug Infested Floorboards, at the end with the I Think I'll Leave This Place Now. It's kind of hard for me to choose a favorite song, if I'm being honest.
Oh, yeah. That's why I didn't ask you.
Because I love I definitely love all the songs in their own way. Even Boys Theme, I think, is a really important song. Because, I mean, it's just kind of a really nice instrumental, but it also very much seems to have, like, some sort of sentimental value to it, to Adam. Apparently it's based on the song When You're the Best of Friends from Fox and the Hound.
Interesting.
And I'm not going to play it because then we might actually get taken down since Disney has its drones coming out.
That fresh copyright?
Come at me, Walt.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Kiss me.
I would lose so much money.
Kiss me, copyright.
But I think with that context based with the voicemail of Andrew saying he heard Map of the Stars on the radio, and then just kind of being like, okay, bye. There's definitely something to that song that Adam doesn't really describe, because he doesn't really describe in detail what anything is really about, but I'm pretty sure that song is about like his relationship with his best friend, presumably Andrew. Like for what it seems like, it's kind of hard to give everybody roles in the band, but like it seems like Adam was very much like the driver of everything, whereas Andrew's like the heart. Like he's the kind of goofy one that kept everything together. Like in the song Can't Run Away, there's the lyric, my dad does things that make me laugh. He meows Tom Petty songs. And that's apparently that's actually based off of what like his dad would actually do when they had perform or when they had practice at their house, because like Adam's parents were the pretty open ones that were just like, yeah, just play in our basement. Here's a place where you guys can practice and whatnot.
Or you can be kids.
And I guess, yeah.
That's cool.
And I guess like Adam's dad would run like bits with Andrew and Adam and Zach and all of them. So, like, that was one of them where he would just like meow stuff, like the Super Troopers bit.
Love it.
But yeah, I mean, one of my favorite songs, Can't Run Away. If I had to put a pin on any specific song for being my favorite, it's probably Bug Infested Floorboards. While we're talking about overly personal things, I'll just get into probably why I love that song so much, was because it definitely came at a time. On the surface, that song is about moving out of a like fucked up house. When I was listening to this album, I was definitely in a place physically where I just did not like any of my roommates and really wanted to just not be there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes driving home from work, I'd just be yelling, I think I'll leave this place now. I put an example in here. Let me get it set up real quick. But in the spirit of the Scrambles episode, I did another vocal cover.
Oh my God.
This file is literally 8 minutes long because I did all of Bug Infested Floorboards and Orange Blue with Stripes. So I'll just play probably the best section from Bug Infested Floorboards. I was low-key planning on doing a cover if we had taken that week break that we were intending to, but okay, this is...
You hate everyone. Do you know everyone's either a moron or a creep or a poser? Why do you suddenly care about them? Because I'm shallow. I want them to like me.
Shut up and swallow is what they all said. So I complained about all of it, but now I think I'll leave this place now. Think I'm the same. Now we're the same.
You held that pretty good. My voice was great.
I've done it a lot. Yeah, so I mean, dealing with that in my life, with that situation where I hated my roommates, was definitely a deep connection I had to this album, and just in general being in that weird point in my life where I felt like I was stuck. I mean, honestly, if I'm being real, for a pretty long time, or like for most of this year, I had completely burnt myself out on this album. I knew that I loved it. I just like, every time I listened to it, it was back to that like just being glazed over washed type deal.
Mm-hmm.
where like I just couldn't really focus on anything. So it was definitely there like the first time I listened to it for the podcast, but then after the fact I was able to listen to it again and be like, oh damn, I really do love this album so much.
Nostalgia, right? Coming back and getting hit with all like the good memories.
Yeah.
And the worst part is when it hits you with all the bad ones. You're like, oh yeah, that's right.
Nah. Yeah.
So, in case the audience didn't pick up on it, I did buy a melodica specifically because of this album. And the first thing I did do was learn how to play the melodica part on bug-infested floorboards.
It's a good one. It's also that also harkens back to the melody at the end of Pile No Pile Pile, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never picked up on, or I think I like subtly picked up on it, but I never really thought about it. But it is the exact same melody as the Way Before Now.
Mm-hmm. Which I loved. I love that entire section of that song. That's when I knew that the album and like the musical spaces that they were going to explore was going to be not non-traditional in terms of like the quote-unquote emo scene, you know?
Yeah, and it really speaks to the approach they went in with this album and making this album. Apparently they got really tired of performing the first album as dancers and were just kind of, it was their way of understanding that, oh, the album doesn't, like, this was pre-Life of Pablo, so it was like, oh, you can't make changes to the album once it's out. Like, you kind of have to live with it as it is. So they definitely went into this album.
I don't know that lore. There's changes into Life of Pablo as it came out? I think I do, actually. Sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
That deep
for the
sigh.
audience, Kanye West's album Life of Pablo, if you're unfamiliar, was released in one people had been gathering like snippets and leaks off of wherever they could for a really long time, so they kind of were able to piece together like what the album would sound like when he released it. There was just certain parts that people liked that had been completely cut off, so the reception was kind of lukewarm. So what he ended up doing was saying like, okay guys, like this is only on streaming, so I can fix it. So the album, quite literally, you could make patch notes for the album.
That's so weird.
Because there's just like multiple changes. Like at the way it was released is like super different, at least in the last half, as to when it came out. Like he added songs, one song was just like one long thing, and then he separated it. He completely changed. I mean, the song that is most guilty of like the internet reception being kind of iffy to it, and then him being like, there's literally a very famous tweet where he just says, "I'ma fix wolves." So he like just kind of completely revamped that song. But yeah, it was a whole thing. It was pretty fun for the time, just kind of being like, oh, there's changes, that's a wild thing. But then he's presumably trying to do it with his most recent release and Donda, and it's very kind of just annoying to me now. But
it was cool as a bit, but like now it's weird.
I mean, I guess if you want to call it a bit.
A legitimate. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bit, but it was definitely like a cool, just like, here's the technology we have now, so I'm going to use it. Where, I mean, everything's based on streaming, so why not change it? But it also, there's also good and very much so good and bad to it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. That's weird. I get it, you know, but it's weird. It's new. I don't like new things.
Yeah. So Brave Little Abacus Brave Little Abacus was definitely concerned with their work as an album, so that's kind of where these like sound and lyrical motifs come from, where the melody to Way Before Now makes several appearances. That As If I Were Asleep part comes back twice. So they're very much concerned with how it came together as a whole, which is definitely why I recommended this one specifically, because I think it is very much their masterwork and just the culmination of everything that they had done up to now, or up to that point in the band.
Awesome.
Do you guys have any other specific things you want to know or want to talk about the album? I can, or I can just move on to the fall of the band.
I would love your take on what changed between this album and the previous album in terms of their like genre, because that was something I really fixated on, and we listened to it. We touched on it a little bit based on Untitled versus Untitled Continue. Although that's not, I don't believe that Untitled is from their first album. It's from their EP. Is that right? Or
yeah, it's from the Matt Aspinwall album.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I just picked up on a lot of stuff across like all of the songs that always had it pointing towards like something that felt very new in terms of like the genre space that they're quote unquote supposed to be in. So just curious as to your thoughts on that.
Yeah. That's perfect, because I keep forgetting to address the genre discussion.
Genre.
The after the fact of when the Brave Little Abacus broke up and the internet found their music after the fact, basically. Since then, they've been labeled emo. And I think that's mainly because emo is really the genre that has kind of taken a home to it, or given it a home. One of the big things about home is where like they're pushed to start like the quote unquote new wave of emo, or whatever, fifth wave emo as people will refer to it. Is that I think the commonality in all of fifth wave emo is that everybody just fucking loves the Brave Little Abacus. And that's probably why I like fifth wave emo so much. What at the time, because they were a pretty local band, so not a lot of coverage was done of them. So that's usually where genre tags get established. Apparently, the only one they got was math rock.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Adam says that he was kind of like bummed on that, though, like hearing their album Mass Dancers get labeled as math rock, I think kind of made them want to move away from like tapped guitars and stuff like that, because there's a lot of that on the first few albums. I think
How weird.
I think the section of no, I think I stopped before they got to the tapped guitars on the first Untitled, but there's very much like a presence of that and stuff like Rush influence and whatnot. It's like very prog rock, very math rock-ish, somewhere in that zone. And I think they just kind of didn't like getting put in that box because Adam says he is really into Dillinger Escape Plan and stuff like that. So I think he kind of wanted to be seen as like, he's into like Dillinger Escape Plan and Fugazi and stuff like that. So I think he wanted to be seen as like punk. Like,
I mean, Dillinger Escape Plan definitely falls in the math rock category now. Maybe not math rock, but
math core.
Yeah, it's math for sure.
Math core, geometry. My question is like, I guess I don't really care too much to ever really categorize myself. If that's the way I'm as a person, so that's where I'm speaking from this scope. Like, to be told, like, oh, you're kind of math rockish, and then being kind of, like, upset by that. I don't really understand it. I don't, like, you made this music, you're happy with it. This is what people think you are. And that's just kind of how it is. Isn't that what art is? Like, the creator's intention and then the interpretation of an audience.
Well,
like, both are technically valid, I guess. So, like...
What if someone was like, oh, you are specifically the engineer that works for this company that does this thing. Does that bother you?
No.
So part of the thing I'm getting at is like,
because this is like, they still made the album they liked. They still made the album they loved, and they still
it becomes a problem for future potentials, right? Like, there's a big problem with people getting pigeonholed in music and in art. Like, if I say that if you make let's say you draw a beautiful picture and this is your thing, and you
people
you
just want to see you draw the same. Yeah, you just draw landscapes. I want to do portraits now. You're the landscape guy.
Or
I guess that's like.
I mean,
that's not.
If you take it to comedy, as we tend to do to explain music to you, it would be like. It would be kind of like if you're just in general into comedy, like, and somebody was like, "Oh, you're a stand-up comedian," and it's like, "Well, I'm also a part of this podcast," and like I like to think of sketches and stuff like that, and then they just be like, "No, you're stand-up," and it's like, I guess you can say that, but like that's not. I guess not, to me, that's not describing who I think I am.
Yeah, but I guess it's just it's already been created, and to me, it's like it's happened. And what they say technically has no bearing on what you believe, especially on this scale, where it's not like a giant label telling them, like, you need to make the same music over and over again, because that's just going to make you money. These are people who are making music because they want to express emotions and feelings, and people are telling them, like, oh, well, yeah, it kind of fits in this genre, which I don't know if, like, that's... Is it rude to say maybe to them? I get like... I wanted you guys to interpret message ABC, but you guys are saying I'm more XYZ. It sucks, and like I guess then it does make a bit more sense of being like, well, then I guess I'll try more to lean into this ABC way of thinking.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try doing that. I guess I interpret it more as like people being like, that's stupid. Like but it's more like, no, I really want to try more this. I did that, and I'm okay with that. I guess it feels weird to hear it. Yeah. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it. Of they're upset or they don't like that they're being pigeonholed into it. Because at the end, it doesn't matter.
I don't think it was necessarily them being upset by being pigeonholed. I think it was more just that they themselves weren't really super into the album that they had recorded after the fact.
Interesting.
Like.
But that's kind
of
true with all art, right? Some people just kind of like, I've finished this idea, and I'm gonna now move on to like do something new.
Yeah, but it's a little different with music because you typically I mean, they were playing shows.
Yeah, that's true.
So they have to deal with the song that if they don't exactly like it, then it's like, oh man, we have to play this song. Like, they never really got, I think, because the Brave Little Abacus was just kind of such a experimental band that did what they wanted. Like, apparently before they got the live drummer, they would just play the backing tracks off of a Dreamcast off a CRT on stage.
Fresh.
Whoa.
So like they very much just kind of did what they wanted to. So I don't really think, and I think just
it's
kind of having to play,
they had this. Okay, yeah.
It's a reaction to their own art, not really a reaction to the outside perception of it, because I don't think there was enough outside perception to really warrant like, oh, we're gonna lean into the math rock, or oh fuck that, like we're not math rock, so we're making something completely different. I think it was more just like, oh man, like these tapping parts just don't translate to live or something like that, or I'm just kind of tired of playing this 8-minute song.
I can respect, I understand that a lot more than the made up delusions I had in my head, I guess. Of just like categorization and stuff like that. But I have a lot of trouble with this, and a lot of more broad subjects I'm not going to go into, where it's just kind of like, just make it, and then if you don't like it, which they seem to became a part of, which makes sense, you know, you do something and you kind of want to do something new and fresh, makes much more sense to me.
I think it just kind of, because as it's pretty easy once, well, the internet perception is kind of all out of whack, because it is fairly notable on the internet. Like, people know about the Brave Little Abacus if you're a part of the niche that is like the emo music scene or whatever. But I think it kind of obscures, like, everybody's knowledge today of them kind of obscures the fact that they kind of called it quits just before they would have been able to really go to like different states and play. I mean, they played in the New England area, New York and stuff like that. Like, they're able to do that. Yeah, but
to travel,
I mean,
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, they weren't really able to travel all that far outside of the East Coast.
I know you said it before. What was the time period for them again?
I think about 2006, 2007, and then they broke up in 2012. So it was only about 6 years.
Okay.
Which is pretty significant, but also...
But there was that time period too, like money and like...
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I mean...
You know, it's to self-fund to travel and like perform is like...
It's hard. Like the unfortunate flip side of Bomb the Music Industry, where like Bomb the Music Industry was able to keep it going and just kind of power through everything because they're very much like super into wanting to do it. But the Brave Little Abacus just kind of fizzled out because I think everybody, or at least Zach and Andrew, were probably just kind of like, well, there's nothing we can really get out of this. We kind of need to start our lives. At least that's what I understand. Adam doesn't really explain why the band broke up in very detailed ways. I don't really know why, if there's like any personal things attached to it or not, but the point being, like, they were very much just like a part of their New Hampshire music scene, and then a little bit later just kind of tacked on to like Jeff Rosenstock because they would play shows together, and people would eventually warm up to them because Jeff would say like, yeah, this band is great, you guys should check them out. And then everybody's like, oh, well, if Jeff Rosenstock says he likes it, maybe we should see. But
Yep.
I mean,
Music.
and yeah.
Yup.
Yep. Well, I
And
mean,
I
it's true.
think
That's how it works. Like critics and stuff. It's like word of mouth and
Yeah.
publicity.
100%. And like as we established in the Scrambles episode, people love Jeff, right? You know? So
Yeah,
he likes something else
exactly,
too.
like-
Yeah. By no means am I making fun of it. I feel that came out of the way. I'm so sorry. I definitely am just like, oh yeah, this person. I've done that dozens of times. I read shit and listen to shit because you guys like it. That's it. And in the end, I don't like it. I'm just like,
That's
Welcome to
the
this
name of the
episode.
game. That's the name of this podcast.
dun.
Sussy boys.
But yeah, I mean, I think what doesn't really get stated enough is that like there really isn't a music scene in New Hampshire to speak of. Like,
No. There isn't.
so
I can emphasize this a little bit. There aren't enough cities that have these particular kinds of cultures where music in like DIY scenes thrive. Like this is a very particular aesthetic, right? Like the aesthetics that are associated with this culturally just don't exist in New Hampshire. There's like classical music stuff happening all over the place, but not really like this like hybridized like punk like instrumental sort of model. The closest you get to that is maybe somewhere in Vermont, but even then you're most likely looking at Boston, and these are all New England cities, pretty like
yeah.
close to each other, you know, like an hour to 2 hours away from each other. So that's the hard thing, is that there really wasn't a lot of there aren't a lot of places where a band like this can thrive on its own. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, I'll just continue with we hit a pretty good point in the story of the Brave Little Abacus that I can just jump off from. So basically after this album is released, quite literally, part of the personality of the band was apparently Adam just posted this on Bandcamp.
Nice.
Like the night of a performance or the night before a performance, and that's how it was released. Like no promotion, nothing to speak of. Like it was also in 2010, so I mean the social media wasn't nearly as
Prominent
popular as it was. So I mean the most they could have done is like MySpace and Tumblr, which I think they did, but like
They were
they
on
weren't
gig.
they didn't really have an internet presence. So after the album is released, they kind of eventually decide that they need to break up. In that decision, though, they also start playing shows outside of like New Hampshire, Boston area. Like they go to New York and start joining Jeff and with Bomb the Music Industry and Laura Stevenson on like local shows.
Cool.
They actually start like picking up momentum and like bring in the live drummer and stuff like that. And it's all unfortunate because this is all kind of done with the scope that they know they're not going to last. So like all the momentum they build up at the end is just kind of all for naught in their like band history, at least.
So sad.
The last EP is done kind of not as a favor, but like as a collaboration with some friends. They tell them, basically they let them know, hey, we really like your guys' band. You guys should put out something on vinyl. And they're kind of like really want to do that. So they put together their last EP with that in mind. And it's pretty funny because apparently like they wrote the album with vinyl in mind. So it's definitely a lot more snappy, like shorter songs. Apparently one of them they recorded at a faster tempo because it was too slow to fit on a 7-inch.
Oh no.
Which is really funny, but it's honestly a pretty slow song even with them recording it at a faster tempo. So I don't know what was up with that. And they basically finished the album. Jeff Rosenstock says like, hey, I want to put this out on my record label, quote unquote. So I'm going to release it through that. And I mean, they're big Bomb the Music Industry fans. And so they're like, well, yeah, of course we'd want that. Like, it's a dream of ours to be on quote unquote or whatever. And then like literally as that happens, they play their last show and break up. So,
but is it like a planned, like this is gonna be our last show, like
yes,
Bomb Music
like
did, and it's all emotional and sad to watch in a way that's like nice?
It's a little more,
maybe not that.
it's a really, I wouldn't say it's quite as emotional as Bomb the Music Industry's last show, although I definitely find it emotional.
Yeah,
but like nobody's like really crying. I think the way Adam describes it is that he just kind of wanted to move on. Like, I'm pretty sure that, I mean, this had been kind of in the book since 2010 that like the other band members didn't really have time for it. And I think Adam was just in a very emotional state and really wanted it to happen, and it wasn't. So I think what ended up happening was he just said, well, if we can't make this work, like, I don't want to put so much emotional involvement in it, so it's better just to break up. That's all just speculation, but because he very much speaks very vaguely about the breakup, he just kind of says like the band weren't exactly on the best terms when they broke up. Although
they're still friends, I imagine, right?
Yeah. There's pictures of them hanging out recently after, like, he posted during the pandemic, and it's like the most heartwarming thing for anybody who loves the Brave Little Abacus. I legit like just went to Zach's Instagram page randomly and saw that he just like recently had a kid, and I was like, oh my god, like this is actually making me emotional. But yeah, the last performance was actually recorded much like Bomb the Music Industries, and it's probably one of my favorite videos on YouTube. Like it like even at the end there's like a part where they're playing their quote unquote encore, and they're just trying to figure out what song to play, and you can like kind of hear Adam say like, all right, we did great tonight, like we're the best we've ever been, and then he says like friends forever or something like that. And it's like I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about
That's so
it.
sweet. I love Friends.
So yeah, the Brave Little Abacus breaks up after their, I mean, in the last show they literally say like, the last EP will be up on quote unquote eventually, and you can buy the 7-inch at the show. So I think it was literally as it released, they're just like, yeah, we're done. I'm not really sure. I mean, the history's pretty gray on what happened after the fact, because, I mean, in terms of the band, like, everybody just kind of went their own separate ways. I think Adam was kind of fed up with writing music. I mean, I'm pretty sure he still played in bands after the fact, just because he is very much involved in music and whatnot. I even think I'll pull it up after we're done recording, but I swear to God it's him on the drums in the last Bomb the Music Industry show playing for Laura Stevenson. I swear that's him, but I'm not entirely sure. But as the internet works in mysterious ways, I think the Brave Little Abacus really had apparently made its way onto internet forums before the quote-unquote records release, although I probably think that's probably the widest audience it reached, just because the Jeff Rosen stalkers were such big fans of anything that came out on that website. So eventually it makes it from the internet forums to the MU board of 4chan. There it really starts to gain like meme traction and like spread around. It also made it to, and I should mention this, somewhere in between the breakup and now, apparently the way Bandcamp used to work was you only get so many free downloads, and because Adam really was insistent that the music be free, and presumably because he was upset by the band breaking up, like he was definitely the most like involved, or the person who really wanted it to happen. So he even says like when they broke up, he was considering like the Brave Little Abacus a failure. Like he was still very much proud of the music they made, and still is, but he was like, yeah, we didn't do it. Like we didn't make it as a band.
That's heartbreaking. That's fucked up. I get it.
It's a little weird. Sense. I mean, yeah, it you definitely have to come from the perspective of it being a group of friends for that to be like really impactful, because like it's not uncommon for music groups to come and go. I think
that's kind of how I see it. But it's still like at the time, and if like maybe if they waited like a year, but before it catches on, and they can see like how big the band is, and maybe then like the people can sort out their things. I can see what he says, even as to put it in the perspective of this podcast, I think it would be if you guys were just like, yeah, we don't really have the time to record anymore. Like we're just we just kind of can't do it. And I were to just be like, all right, then podcast over. Then, and we just kind of left off with the numbers we had now. It'd just be like, well, it was and wasn't, but like an effort was there. There is evidence.
Like we definitely put in a hard effort, but like maybe this was just a waste of time. Like
I see what you mean.
Or just maybe the wrong time. It came out. Like I definitely think about that. Like I wish I would have, when I was in college, tried more of like the passion projects I had at that time. And then that make me feel somewhat, I'm glad it happened. Rather than, even if it fails, like, I'm glad it at least happened. I'm sure he feels that way too. Like, he is proud of his work, but he wishes it had developed more.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I think he is still very much proud of what they were able to make, and he does say in one of the interviews I listened to that, like, the music's good, like, there's no doubt about that. And I think that they were very much like trying, like, everybody was trying to make, like, hone their craft, and I think they did accomplish it to an extent. Going from high schoolers that knew very little about making music to making this album, even before, like, it's pretty incredible to jump from the Matt Aspinwall album from the demo. Like, it's just a massive leap in quality of songwriting and recording and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it makes it to the internet and kind of becomes like this weird thing because nobody really had accessibility to the band at that point. Adam was kind of just over writing music. Andrew and Zach were just living their lives. And it really isn't until, like, fairly recently that you get some of the backstory behind things. There's a interview Adam did in, like, 2017, which is, like, 5 years after the band broke up, where he kind of shed some light on certain things behind the band. Like, I think they didn't even know, people on the internet didn't even know they're, like, from New Hampshire or, like, a 3-piece band or anything. Like,
yeah.
The legend of the Brave Little Abacus is definitely out there, and judging by the fact that the interviews with Adam Demersion kind of only have, like, maybe 1,000 views, just kind of like, I'm pretty sure it's the legends are still swimming out there.
The legends.
Yeah, so there's, like, just kind of a lot to the band that people were left to infer with everything out. The way you were able to get the music before they put it on Spotify fairly recently was literally, it was a Mediafire link that was just a folder of all the zip files that was on their last.fm page that was also spread by the, like, person who posted it on YouTube that was unrelated to the band.
What the fuck? And they were just like whatever. Like,
yeah, I mean, Adam doesn't, like, he says he doesn't really remember, like, his reasoning behind it, but when he just saw the Mediafire link after reaching that, like, free download link on Bandcamp and I think I forgot to mention that he took them down because they reached that limit, and he's like, I don't want people to pay for it, like, or I don't want people to have to pay for it, so I'm just going to take this down and I'll get it on the internet somehow. And then the Mediafire link came around and he's like, perfect. And then just kind of washed his hands of everything. It's like, yeah, I'm over it.
Where are they now? I'm wondering, like, are they all still making music?
Adam is still making music. He eventually did get over that, like, funk he was in towards writing music, and is now in a band called Me and Capri's. Love Me and Capri's. Let me get my prop. I have the tape.
Nice.
The
Put it in your tape
I
deck.
also have the
Put it in me.
poster that came with the tape.
Are you gonna frame it?
It's just like on the wall,
$20.
taped up right now.
I'll frame it.
Yeah, but Me and Capri's is great. For all the replacement heads that were drawn into the podcast by the cover photo, definitely recommend it. Adam says The Replacements is his favorite band ever, and I think he kind of discovered them after the Brave Little Abacus broke up, so I think that's a very heavy influence on their music. It's definitely a lot more like indie rock of the 90s, so pretty accessible compared to the Brave Little Abacus. Zach does compositions for various short films, and I think he's done a couple video games. It's all, I was listening to it earlier this week. It's all pretty great. Nothing too experimental about it or anything, but it's a pretty nice listen, especially if you like the more ambient parts of the Just Got Back. I'm not really sure what Andrew's up to. I know I don't think he really makes music anymore. Yeah, he has a cover of Purple Rain on Adam's YouTube. So
nice.
There's that.
Love me some Prince.
Yeah. Seems
Do you
like
know
everybody's
Prince once
still pretty
released an album?
close.
He released like a download link to an album through like a local newspaper in like his city he was staying at. Like a whole ass album. He just was like, this is how you get it. No other promotion. I think that's real. I heard it once. I need to research that again. But it was like,
It wouldn't surprise me.
so weird when it came to this stuff. But that one always blew me away of like, this is where it is. That's all you're going to get. Like nothing else.
Yeah. It definitely wouldn't surprise me because especially later in his career, Prince was very like experimental in his releases, I'm pretty sure. Like the whole Dave Chappelle cover and whatnot.
So odd. He's such an odd man.
Prince, the artist formerly known as Prince, was intense, you know?
Yeah.
That he would.
But yeah, I mean, Zach and Andrew are both just kind of married and living the life. Zach has a kid now. Adam works at a comic store. I think it might be Newberry Comics, but I'm not sure.
Fresh.
Yo, we should go.
He actually has like a lot of like, he reads a lot of comics, so
Hey!
just kind of like a dream guest for this podcast.
Dude, that
Although
sounds
I would also really love to just like talk with either Zach or Andrew, though. That seems like a really interesting conversation to have.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, let's go.
They're just like not nearly as on the internet as Adam is, so.
Is it his store?
No.
Oh.
I think he's just like a manager or whatever, but.
This is my son, Abacus. He's very brave.
But yeah, I mean, they all seem to be in a place where they're kind of accepted what, like, the cult status the band has taken. There's not really much they can do about it or with it.
Yeah.
Adam is very vague on a lot of things regarding the band, but he teased that they might be trying to do something, or they were trying to do something, and then the pandemic hit, and then they couldn't. So I'm not really sure what that means, but
that's sad.
I also he also teased that if anybody sees a band named Ukume, the name of the last album, playing a show, you might want to buy airplane tickets and go see it. I'm certain that I would, because it may or may not be the Brave Little Abacus reunited to play some shows, but
that's crazy.
They all seem to be on pretty good terms, and I think it definitely did take some time to get there, because there's definitely an interview from 2017, I want to say, where Adam kind of feels uncomfortable about the whole cult status of the band, and really thinks everything is weird. But he's done 4 or 5 interviews in since 2020, and he definitely is a lot more open to everything that's happened since then. So
how weird. Not weird in how interesting, I guess, to be
well, it's also just a super interesting situation, because it's
do any of the other guys get interviewed or no?
No, unfortunately.
That's rough.
I would love to hear from them, but they also have families and stuff to attend to, so yeah. That's the legend of the Brave Little Abacus. Go find yourself some fucking weird ass fans that have their theories on everything. I'm definitely kind of one of them, although my theories are pretty based in reality, unlike
that's what every crockpot theorist says.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's definitely a fifth wave emo prerequisite that somebody in your band has to have the Masked Dancers silhouette tattooed on them. So it's very much a lasting influence that, even though for some reason on all the graphics that at least Brandon from Home Is Where is made regarding fifth wave emo, since she's definitely the face of it, it's always the Brave Little Abacus demo for some reason. I don't know why. If you want early Brave Little Abacus, I personally say start at Mad Aspinwall. That album is great, and yeah, it's probably my second favorite
of all time.
No.
No.
We have to have more episodes for that question to be answered. You can't give it all away now,
Nah, let's hear it.
Out there, if they can source an Ukume 7-inch, I will pay absorbent amounts for it.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, let's go.
I like Brave Little Abacus. I think they're really cool. I can't wait to listen to the other album now. And hearing how it ended does make me sad, I think
it's very bittersweet.
It's very bittersweet, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, for me, coming from the music more music-y side of things, I guess, since that's what I do, I guess. I do that too much, so apologies. But I really loved the album. I haven't heard anyone really occupy that genre space personally for me in a very long time, so I'm gonna go like check out more of their music. I think you played your cards really well placing this after Scrambles, because lyrically there are a lot of like similarities in style of communication between lyricist and audience that I really enjoy. Yeah, it's a good call. Also, they're great. Yeah, their stuff's awesome.
How'd you like the album, Andres? In 7 words. 7 words exactly. How'd you like the album?
Album is my fucking life. That's 6.
That's
whatever.
6.
Damn.
You could just throw in like
Fuck.
fuck.
I love this album.
That's one word.
And it's the most inspirational album to me ever thinking about wanting to record music. And it's just very important to me in general, even outside of that fact. So I will not go over my other 3 pages of notes.
Just know that if someone wants to talk to a Brave Little Abacus historian, you can hit up Andres once we get those exclusive interviews.
God, dude.
We gotta get those interviews.
I would love to have any of the members on the podcast. I think Adam seems like the fucking nicest person ever, and I feel like he has very similar tastes to things that we like. So.
Yeah.
I want to talk to the Andrew, right? Comic book shop employee.
That's Adam.
That's Adam. Sorry, I got the names are similar. I just love comics.
Zach, come talk to me about your compositional interests, Zach. We share a lot.
Yeah, I would love to hear.
Just any of them seem really interesting.
I would love to see a conversation with Zach from anybody, but also like with Manny involved. That would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
We can geek out.
With our powers combined.
Right? We're a fucking Power Ranger team.
Oh, I want to be blue.
I'll be the black one.
Nice. Andres?
I'll be the pink one. I don't know.
Nice.
That's lit. That's
I'll
lit.
have the skirt.
Oh my
Take
god.
that, Power Rangers themes where usually the red one is the leader.
Yeah.
Now we don't have one.
Yeah. As I usually try to just put the hosting duties on you guys every 2 episodes. I think it's only fitting we don't have a leader.
Yeah. Sweet.
I have a
So
recommendation.
yeah, hit us with your rec.
I mentioned this might be a lukewarm one for you guys because I don't think we occupy this space. I was going to recommend my favorite Star Wars film. It is Solo, the Han Solo movie. It is definitely one of the least regarded Star Wars movies, but it occupies my favorite space as not being about the giant religious cult that is the Jedi fighting the same family of the Skywalkers over and over again. It is instead about how crazy and fun the universe can be, and it's like I describe it as a wacky James Bond movie, but I've never seen a James Bond movie, so I don't think that's a good description.
I mean, I think it might be a fair description of Han Solo, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you guys ever seen this movie, Solo, a Star Wars movie?
No, I have not.
No.
No, okay. I saw it in theaters. It had very weird, like, people didn't want it to come out, people didn't like it, and
I think it's just a good, fun film. I think it's really enjoyable if you just kind of like turn off your brain and let it happen. And there's a lot of cool little like throwaways to the outer rim of Star Wars, which is kind of like that scum and villainy type area. So I hope you guys like it. How we'll watch it is I'll probably just buy fucking Disney Plus and give you guys a login code because there's no other way to do it legally. But it's very fun. I like it. I think it's the best because of how ridiculous it is at times.
I have access to Disney Plus, so
it's okay. I'll buy it anyway.
I do too.
Great. Rogue One's also good. Rogue One is up there for sure, but this one's more fun.
I've been hearing a lot from like Star Wars fans that like Rogue One and Solo are like the most overlooked Star Wars movies and actually really fun.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to recommend Rogue One probably another time, honestly, because if you haven't seen it, it's really good, and some people are of the opinion if you've already seen it, it's kind of shitty to rewatch again, but those people are really pretentious people anyway.
I have seen it, but I completely forgot like everything about it. So. Yeah,
totally. But I mean, we're gonna come at this from you guys are not really Star Wars fans. Would you claim yourselves to be? Not Manny.
I am definitely not a a Star Wars buff, if you want to put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the original trilogy like way back. I've seen the prequels way back. And I have seen 2 of the 3 newest, like the new trilogy films.
Okay.
But
I've seen the original, I've seen the new, and I have not finished the prequels. I got bored. I didn't watch them. I know like the last 2 and 3 are good. I just haven't seen them.
I actually have a real fondness for the prequels, even though they're garbage. People say I love them.
Yeah, they're good in a way of like, this sucks. But
I love them.
Episode 1, I fell asleep in, and
I have bad taste.
I have found that, like, especially in our generation, for some reason, there's definitely, like, a lot of people who will defend the prequels and say that they're actually good movies.
2 and 3 have things happen in them.
2 is arguably the worst, if I'm being honest, from what I can gather.
One? Have you seen 1?
No, I fell asleep watching 1.
1 is boring. 1 sucks. 2 is stuff happens, and 3 is like, the big inciting incident for the whole thing. But it's fine. We don't need to get into this.
Kill some children.
3 is ridiculous, but fun. 2 is like porn level acting. Like, what the fuck was Hayden Christensen trying to do with this role?
He's such a cool guy.
Yeah,
I mean, a nice person. There's talks too of like how he's a weirdo in the acting ideas because of how he wants to portray the character, and you're just like, or maybe you're not like
maybe it isn't. Maybe it isn't even him. I've definitely heard people claim that George Lucas just doesn't know how to talk like a normal human when writing.
Like. George Lucas. Okay, so this is going to get crazy, but I'm going to say this right now. George Lucas, the reason the original trilogy is pretty good is because his wife did all the editing, and his wife made a lot of the stuff for it. The prequels, George did it all. There's parts where George cuts scenes of different takes and just like mixes them together in the same sentence. So like there's parts where like Ewan McGregor and the what's his name always pees himself?
Anakin Skywalker.
Qui-Gon Jinn's actor. He's like, I never said that exact sentence. Liam Neeson's like, I've never said that exact sentence. Like, he'll get like the beginnings of stuff and he changes it. George Lucas is a terrible director. Like, someone, I don't know, man. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I got yelled at once by my coworker that because I was not an original fan like she was, I didn't deserve like an opinion, basically. And I was like, You're mean. Also, those movies are bad. Like, what do you mean? Like,
everyone
half your
deserves
film
an
is regarded as
opinion.
trash.
You know, everyone deserves
yeah,
one,
that's what I felt. I don't know.
even if it's a bad opinion.
But
she's.
I definitely struggle to call myself a Star Wars fan. Like, I like the movies. They're usually pretty fun. Like, now that I've just kind of know how to, like, turn my brain off when watching some stuff.
Yeah.
I think I've watched the first three released, the 4 through 6. Yeah, the originals, like, once or twice each. I haven't really I've been in the room while all the prequel trilogy was being played. I saw the last one. I saw the third one in theaters. I do remember that.
Me too.
But the Clone Wars and I fell asleep during the Phantom Menace, so I, like, know the beginning and the end. I don't even know the beginning, if I'm being honest.
I fell asleep during the beginning of the pod race. They were like, that's, like, the best part of the movie. And I'm like, I know, but the whole other part of the movie puts you to sleep.
That's sad that it's the best part of the movie.
And then I saw all the new trilogy. Saw all the new trilogy in theaters with my family.
Well, there's a lot. You know, Star Wars is so divisive. It's going to be an interesting conversation.
People treat it like a religion.
My hot take to...
You know?
Yeah.
Really do.
My hot take to close the episode is that the new trilogy isn't nearly as bad as people think it is. I think they just think that the old trilogy is way better than they actually think it is.
Which is a universal thought with, I think, Star Wars. It's never going to be as good as when I was a kid, and that's because you are not a kid anymore. You know?
Yeah, I'm a god.
But, let's just do some plugs. Let's talk about this. And let's go home.
Okay. Plugs. Subscribe to the podcast on social media at SUSSED.
Subscribe to us on YouTube.
Yeah. Subscribe on YouTube, because I put effort into that, and I don't really think many people watch on YouTube. So.
I don't think we've ever plugged it before today.
Yeah. Also, go follow us on Twitter. It's good. Instagram. It's good. We are the SUSSED.
Go to the Mediafire links and download Brave Little Abacus.
Yeah. And to find the Matt Aspinwall album, you need to go on Matt Aspinwall's Bandcamp. And to find Okame, you need to go on Quote Unquote Records.
And
look for YouTube videos uploaded by Seamus, and they will be on every...
The wrestler?
Yeah.
And they will be on every video. Like, the Mediafire link will be there.
Find yourself a group of friends to do stuff with.
If that is the source of my depression.
Go listen to me and Capri's and Zach's composition work.
Go outside and go get vaccinated. As a COVID haver, go get vaccinated.
Don't get COVID.
Don't get COVID. That's our plug. Don't get COVID.
It's true.
Bye.
Podcast end.
The entirety of I See It Too. All 9 minutes.
Treetops centipede. Branches caress three clouds, make it easy to never leave home. It's an animal kingdom, and this is your inexistent overpassing me. The cars, they go right through it, leaving time only to breathe. And it might just be existent, it might bend at the knees. And its entire existence is overpassing me. I wanna feel you breathe near the gardens in between. Sky you seldom sees, his audiences and the I wanna melt into the pavement, or perhaps the grass, as I dance within the soil. You would drive that I were trapped throughout the sad night sea. I wanna feel